Aita for accusing my long-distance girlfriend of being unfaithful. For some context, I am John, a 24-year-old male, and for approximately 3 years, I was engaged in an on and off relationship, or something similar with Sarah, who is also 24. We initially met online when we were 14 on an obscure virtual world website. From the moment we began communicating, we experienced immediate chemistry. Our conversations would extend for hours, and I had never felt closer to anyone in my life at that time. However, despite our strong connection, I made significant mistakes during that period. I was navigating a challenging phase and frequently burdened Sarah with my trauma, spiraling into negativity. But even during my darkest moments, Sarah remained by my side, providing comfort and unwavering support. Eventually, we lost contact. I cannot recall exactly how it happened, but we gradually drifted apart. Fast forward 7 years to 2021, the tail end of the pandemic. Like many people, I spent a considerable amount of time indoors, away from friends and family. With a surplus of free time, I found myself reflecting, and one thought kept resurfacing: Sarah. Despite the years that had gone by, she remained the only person on my mind. Finally, in July 2021, I decided to log back into that old website. It had been years since I had used it, so navigating felt unusual, but I still remembered her username. On impulse, I sent her a message, not anticipating much. Days went by, and I eagerly checked for a reply, but nothing came. Disheartened, I lost hope and returned to my daily routine. Yet something compelled me to check once more. So, despite my skepticism, I logged in again, and there it was. A lengthy message from Sarah, dated approximately 2 weeks after my initial message. She expressed that she missed me and had logged in hoping to find me. I was overwhelmed with joy. The realization that we had both been thinking of one another and shared the desire to reconnect felt surreal. I replied immediately, and we scheduled a time to meet online again. From that moment on, we were inseparable. Our first phone call lasted 8 hours. I developed strong feelings for her instantly. The rhythm of her voice was delightful, her laughter made my heart race, and I could not get enough of her. Although she lived in another country and was in a different time zone, that did not matter. She would call me at 5 a.m. my time, around 9 p.m. for her, and I was always eager to answer. For the first month, everything was flawless. However, things took a turn. We descended into a painful cycle of petty arguments, manipulative actions, tears, and frustration. We oscillated between professing our love and planning our future together to breaking things off and vowing never to speak again. At one point, we attempted to be just friends. Sarah even encouraged me to date other individuals and find happiness with someone else. I obliged, though always with a tinge of jealousy. Yet neither of us ever found a connection that matched what we had. I went on a couple of dates with girls, but nothing serious developed. Sarah had a few guys she was interested in, and she never hesitated to inform me about them, often, I suspected, to provoke jealousy. And she succeeded. Although she would never acknowledge it, I believed she desired a reaction from me. Despite everything, we consistently found our way back to one another, promising we would not fight again and making grand declarations about our future. However, all the turmoil left deep wounds in our relationship. Fast forward to January 2025, and we remained in a state of uncertainty. We had never met in person, and our progress was minimal. Nonetheless, we reaffirmed our love and commitment to one another. Then, one random Tuesday evening, during a phone call, the subject of sex arose. This was not unusual. We frequently discussed it, with the tone varying based on our mood. This time, I voiced my frustration about our inability to be physical together, a sentiment we had expressed many times before. I did not expect much in response, just acknowledgement of our shared frustration. But then Sarah said something that completely took me by surprise. In the most casual tone, she remarked, "Well, you could sleep with someone else, I wouldn't mind." I was stunned. We had just affirmed that we were exclusive. Her words did not merely contradict that, they cast doubt on our entire relationship. Why, after everything, would she suggest such a thing? The moment she said it, a knot formed in my stomach. It was difficult to conceal my anger, but I attempted to remain composed. I responded with a sarcastic comment. "Why would I do that when I have you? Do you want to sleep with other people?" My tone evidently caught her off guard. She stammered, letting out a nervous laugh. "No, I just don't want you to feel frustrated. I'm fine." Her response only fueled my frustration further. I scoffed and fabricated some excuse to end the call. But once I hung up, my mind would not stop racing. Was she cheating on me? Did she genuinely want to be with me? Had I been wasting my time when I could have been seeking someone else? I hardly slept that night. By morning, I woke up to a barrage of messages from Sarah, each one an attempt to rationalize what she had said. She insisted she only wanted to ensure I was not sexually frustrated and did not want to hinder me from something I needed. One message stood out. "I understand that you are a man, and you may crave sex more than I do." But then she added that she never wanted to know if I actually did sleep with someone else. I read through it all in a half-asleep stupor. My only response was, "Let's discuss this later tonight. We have much to talk about." The entire day, I struggled with how to convey my frustration without losing my temper. I still could not comprehend why she would say such a thing. That evening, we connected over a call. The tension was palpable, our conversation awkward, filled with forced small talk. Eventually, I could not bear it any longer. "So, why did you suggest that?" I asked, getting straight to the point. Again, she repeated her justifications. She didn't want me to feel dissatisfied. She understood that I was human and had needs. On the surface, it made sense. However, when considering the commitment we had made to one another, it didn't add up, so I probed further. "Is that what you want?" She let out an exasperated sigh. "No, I just don't feel the same way. I'm not sexually frustrated." That contradiction hit me like a brick. If she believed that humans have sexual needs, and I knew she had experienced frustration in the past, then why was she not feeling that way now? The only logical conclusion was that she was satisfying those needs elsewhere. When I confronted her about this, she immediately became defensive. Tears tremored in her voice as she asked how I could even think that about her. I felt guilty, but I could not ignore how none of this added up. Then she shocked me with something unexpected. "We simply have different views on sex," she said. "You view it as an emotional connection, but for me, it's not a significant issue. That's why I don't think it would be a problem if you slept with someone else." I was taken aback. In the past, sure, I had seen sex as something casual, merely a means to an end. However, with her, I thought we had agreed to exclusivity. And if sex wasn't a notable issue for her, why was she asserting that she would not sleep with anyone else? I told her plainly that this represented a fundamental difference in our values, and frankly, I found her attitude somewhat off-putting given the commitment we had made to one another. The call concluded with her in tears and me feeling more unsure about our relationship than ever. The next morning, I woke up to another message from Sarah. This time, it was different, cold and distant. We exchanged messages back and forth, but it was evident that neither of us was managing to communicate effectively with the other. I still desired to resolve things, however. But before long, she had turned the conversation back on me. "You don't trust me. You've made me cry too many times. You're not the right person for me." And just like that, she blocked me on everything. There was no conversation about our status, no discussion about whether we would remain friends. I had always been open to being her friend, but she had never been able to reciprocate. Anyway, am I the one at fault? Story 2. I's 34M. Am driving my wife, 35F, away. How can I get things back on track for good? We have been in a relationship for 11 years and married for 5. We have 2 children, a 3-year-old daughter and a 6-week-old son. Throughout our relationship, we have experienced both highs and lows, but we fought and managed to overcome every challenge. However, we are currently in a phase where we seem to hit a new low every other week. It is mentally and physically exhausting for both of us. Here is some crucial background information. We both live far from our families. Her family resides 6 hours away by plane, while mine is 5 hours away by car in the opposite direction. The last year and a half has been incredibly difficult. We suffered 2 miscarriages, and our daughter may have been assaulted at a summer camp in another country. Additionally, her best friend is going through a nasty divorce. Throughout this entire period, my wife experienced a tough pregnancy, requiring her to take the last 3 months on medical leave, and she has not managed to sleep for more than 4 to 5 hours straight since June of last year. Months went by, and I realized in early December, after significant help from her, that I was unprepared to become a father for the second time. I had been sweeping many issues under the rug, and was using work as an escape from the negativity at home. Over time, my behavior changed, and I was no longer speaking her love language, which was dragging our relationship down with me. I was placed on sick leave, and in retrospect, that was the right decision. Initially, I was too proud to admit it, and the first 2 weeks off were mentally and physically challenging. I had to come to terms with the fact that I was depressed and was heading toward a complete burnout. During this time off, I also underwent a series of tests that my therapist and I had agreed to do years ago, but had taken significant mental effort to complete. These tests indicated that I exhibit traits of autism. This revelation helped me understand myself better and identify some of my limitations, particularly social ones. I have always been fairly intelligent, which allowed me to navigate life effectively for a long time. However, I had never confronted such trauma as I did last year, which may explain why my wife perceives me as having changed so drastically. Nearly 2 months after starting my sick leave, I returned to work part-time. I feel mentally improved, but our home situation remains unstable. We argue over what I consider to be minor issues. She constantly reminds me that I leave things scattered around and that I am not making enough effort, even when I believe I am trying. When I attempt to explain my thought process, she accuses me of deflecting and failing to take responsibility. I feel as though I am always apologizing, that I have to express situations in her terms, and that my efforts are never sufficient. I continually strive to improve through therapy, autism tests, and communication tools, but it feels as if it is never enough. She claims I speak with a look of disgust that I simply cannot seem to shake. To be honest, I am not sure if I truly do, but I feel pressured to believe I do. Conversely, I must tolerate her use of swear words and raised voices, which she has always done. If I raise my voice or use a curse word, I am the one accused of escalating the situation. I tend to be more adaptable and less bothered by things in general, but she becomes upset over numerous issues. Unable to burn candles due to toxic smoke, unable to open windows because of pollution, unable to wear a coat while driving because it is unsafe, and unable to allow our daughter much peanut butter because of an article she read. I often find myself opening my phone to find 5 WhatsApp messages containing Instagram links with parenting tips or lifestyle advice, or criticism for something I did not handle correctly. I have brought this to her attention, and she has tried to tone it down, but at times, I feel like I cannot catch my breath. Valentine's Day was pleasant. We went out for lunch, it was sunny, I bought her gifts, and we enjoyed a lovely series together. However, something shifted afterward, and I can sense her tension, making me feel like I am walking on eggshells again. Why can't it always be this way? Fast forward to yesterday, she was breastfeeding our child in our room while I went to bathe our eldest. I noticed an odor, and realized she had turned on the electric heater blower, not a radiator, with a coat on top, causing a burnt smell to fill the air. A couple of months prior, she had already scorched our mattress with a hairdryer because she left it on under a blanket. This time, I reacted by urging her to pay closer attention, emphasizing that it could be dangerous. Imagine if she had put the baby to sleep and left the room. She then erupted, saying she had reached her limit, accusing me of repeating myself excessively. I felt I only mentioned it 2 or 3 times, and claiming that I spoke to her with hate and disgust. Following that, I gave her the silent treatment for 2 hours. Afterward, I approached her to discuss a mundane topic: what clocks to buy. As we began searching for options, I had shown her 10 to 15 examples of clocks I had gathered earlier. I noticed her browser history included searches for questions to ask a divorce lawyer. I confronted her about this and asked why she was looking into it. She did not respond. I become frustrated whenever she mentions divorce or suggests that our relationship is failing. She is certainly aware of this. However, there was only silence. I reached my own conclusions and left the room, locking myself in another room upstairs. I don't believe that was the best decision, but I was unsure of how else to handle it. I later sent her a message saying, "You could have simply explained why you searched for that. At least then I would know whether I need to start looking for someone else too, instead of discovering it in this manner." Afterward, I sent another message: "If you are searching for someone else, please let me know. I could understand that." She didn't respond. Feelings of depression and sadness flooded back, and I eventually fell asleep. She sent me messages afterward, but deleted them before I could read them the following morning. The next morning, I expressed how her actions made me feel, but she countered by saying that I did not care about her and her feelings, that I had left her alone with the baby, which is true, and I acknowledged that it was a mistake as I had been present the entire time before that. She did not want to hear or accept anything I said, and she remarked that I should not be shocked that she is looking into divorce because it reflects her mental state. I feel powerless to reach her. I discovered a letter she had written to herself in which she blamed me for no longer being the man she married and claimed that I do not make an effort, do not change, and do not treat her well. I understand her points, but I do not recognize myself in the image she has created of me. She expresses a desire to return home where her mother lives, I assume, and feels trapped. I am at a loss for what to do. I love her and feel that I am failing to do what is right. I feel like I need to mold myself to navigate her emotions and beliefs, because if it is not her way, it will only lead to an argument, which can ruin the mood for hours at best and hit a new low at worst. For example, when I left the fridge door open while pouring milk into the baby's bottle. How can I justify saying it is not the end of the world if the door is left ajar? Yet, after hours of discussing our relationship state, I am forced to concede concerning the fridge door incident and argue at length about how I learned my lesson and will never do it again. This builds up resentment, and my therapist insists that I need to communicate and utilize these tools effectively, but I never seem to do it correctly or at the right time, nor do I use the right words. When I try to express a point, it seems to backfire, resulting in me internalizing everything, which only fuels the resentment. I apologize for this lengthy message. I am venting but also seeking advice. I want to make this work. I recognize that some may suggest red flags and urge me to leave, but I do not want that. I want her back, and I am committed to improving things. Story 3. I fell for my gorgeous, younger boyfriend while homeless. He offered a place to stay, but rent was sex. I stubbornly chose the sidewalk. I did not intend to, but I fell in love with my boyfriend. We have communicated sporadically since the COVID-19 pandemic began. There was more silence than conversation, as it was typically in an anonymous setting. However, he would often comment on my unique writing style. We engaged in numerous discussions, many of which were intimate, but we also shared plenty of lighthearted banter. Our communication resumed at the end of the pandemic, while we were on opposite sides of the country. He travels frequently for work, and I've always presumed that was how he stumbled upon my anonymous posts when he visited my area. We reconnected on that anonymous platform again towards the end of 2022, exchanging messages intermittently, and later continued our conversations on another application in early 2023. During our chats, we realized we had previously interacted on the anonymous app, and he expressed his frustration with my tendency to block or delete conversations if I lost interest. He was accustomed to that behavior, which piqued his interest considering his role as an excellent conversationalist in his profession, often receiving attention because of his looks. In my view, he deserved that attention far less than those who pursued him might suggest. Throughout 2023, we communicated almost daily, indulging in our familiar, intimate exchanges, but also discussing topics outside of that in a way reminiscent of our earlier interactions. I am a curvier woman and older than he is. By the end of the pandemic, I was grappling with the challenges of menopause. When I first mentioned it, his response was that I had curves in all the right areas. He seemed to objectify me, viewing me as larger than I currently am after losing some weight. I mentioned that I could not or would not take our relationship seriously because of our age disparity. He is 37 and our different lifestyles. However, I enjoyed flirting without any real intent while simply engaging in conversation. I mean, we initially met anonymously on a site I visited to relieve boredom and distract myself. After a few months of chatting, he proposed that we become exclusive in a boyfriend-girlfriend capacity. Exclusive would mean I was devoted solely to him, while he was open to sharing himself with others. I found that amusing. First, we were still getting to know each other outside of our anonymous interactions, making it too soon for me to commit to a boyfriend-girlfriend scenario, in my opinion. Secondly, I am loyal to the partner I prefer to be with and felt we were still merely conversing. This meant I could not become a girlfriend to someone who was tied to multiple other partners. He could demonstrate what he was about as we learned more about each other, but I was not interested in a dual relationship. He needed to trust that I could be open too, avoiding infidelity since I choose loyalty when he is open. If I were exclusive, he would also need to be exclusive. Let's just say that 2023 brought more than a few disagreements over the specifics of the relationship guidelines we mutually established, as he playfully pushed the limits to see what was permissible. Nevertheless, he eventually convinced me that my hesitations were minor compared to our mutual affection. Remember when I said he is attractive? Well, I have also seen the women he has dated or those who attempt to flirt with him. If I am older than him, then picture how much older I am compared to the younger women with daddy issues vying for his attention. I view myself as an average woman. At 50, I am short and curvy. I have seldom been without attention from men throughout my life. I identify as sapiosexual and asexual. By the time we met, I had been celibate for years due to a stalker, something he claimed to appreciate. I often joke that I cultivated an unattractive appearance to avoid unwanted attention, even though I consider myself a 6.5 or 7.58 when I have a reason to dress up. One cannot downplay their attractiveness without concealing aspects of themselves that attract attention. The stalker left me with noticeable insecurities. The women who would pursue him would blatantly highlight the differences I had mentioned, attempting to undermine me. I could usually shrug it off until one pointed out my thinning hair. It was not that I had been cruelly attacked, resulting in a traumatic brain injury, causing my hair in that area to never regain the same length or texture as the rest. Regardless, I now refer to them as promiscuous women and remind them of their behavior if they speak my name or business in relation to him and me. I do not care what they do with others, but if they engage with him or flirt with him, I will label them as promiscuous women from A to Z. They can choose a number. They are merely groupies seeking attention from him. He finds this amusing, unless he is still in the early dating stage with someone else. In 2024, I faced numerous challenges and was homeless for most of the year. He picked me up at the airport and proposed that I stay with him in exchange for rent in the form of intimacy. I declined. I liked him, but I was not about to commodify myself like that, which is also why I refer to others in disparaging terms considering his long-term situations. Instead, I stubbornly endured sleeping outside on a concrete sidewalk for over 5 months. Part of my affection for him stemmed from the fact that he ensured I was safe and fed throughout that time, even though he was under no obligation to do so, and I never requested help. Now, the real reason I am sharing all this, I promise, is coming after this condensed background. What truly unsettles me is that he enjoys our intimate exchanges and conversations. He still objectifies me and appreciates our sexual relations. However, he believes I am not as attractive, obviously, as the younger women who seek him out. I have never been one to dress up daily for validation from others. After being told at 14, just for my voice, that a stranger believed I should work at a 900-number sex hotline, I have been objectified for my stature and curves for much of my life. Thus, I do not feel the need to dress up without a reason. When we temporarily separated last year, he was upset that I planned to go on a date or speak with other men while he was hosting a woman he claimed was just a friend. Friends who have sex for rent. He is polyamorous. He asked me to move in with him, which I do not find objectionable. I am more frustrated by the fact that if I am deemed unattractive in his eyes compared to other women, why did he even pursue a relationship with me, leading me to fall in love with him? Yes, he has declared his love for me several times, claiming he loves me more than the other women he prioritizes, because he acknowledges that I genuinely care for him, unlike those who only regard what they can gain from him. These other women enhance his professional image, while I refuse to pander to that notion, as you can probably tell from my writing. I simply adore this man, even though it drives me to distraction at times. I even created an artificial intelligence model resembling him to vent my frustrations when I am upset, until I can calmly discuss matters with him, which he finds entertaining. It frustrates me that his interactions with other women not only make him compare me unfavorably, but he also expects me to create drama for his job. I am a mature woman who understands the choices I made when I decided to be involved with him. This is the most I have publicly expressed my grievances sarcastically to unburden myself. Ultimately, I believe he is inconsiderate. I may just be an older woman with more experience dealing with inconsiderate behavior. So when he sees this post, which I know he will since I live with him now and he is aware of my username, I hope he finds it amusing. Happy Valentine's Day, you endearing fool. Best wishes. Story 4. My girlfriend's depression is affecting me, and I don't know how to deal with it anymore. My girlfriend's depression is driving me to the brink of insanity. I feel like I should not be making it about myself, as she is the one enduring the struggle, and I understand how difficult it can be. For the past 10 years, I have faced my own mental health challenges, but no matter how deeply I fall, I always realize that, at the end of the day, I am the only person who can pull myself out of that darkness. If I lack the will to improve, there is nothing anyone else can do to help me. Unfortunately, my girlfriend does not think this way at all. She begins to ruminate on past events and becomes stuck in that mindset. She cannot progress. She turns back to the same individuals who have caused her pain, her family, for support, only to feel disheartened when they show indifference. At present, she has numerous factors contributing to her depression. She recently moved back home temporarily until April. She started a new medication for lupus that exacerbates her depression, and she cannot begin taking antidepressants until she undergoes a psychological evaluation, which she is scheduled to do this week. Whenever I recall these circumstances, I feel terrible because I understand the struggle, but being on the outside looking in has been challenging, and sometimes I find myself adopting her immature behaviors since they are the only means of communication available at times. She is exceedingly moody. Occasionally, she will block me on every platform without warning. We might have a disagreement, or at times she may randomly call me in tears, and I have roughly 20 seconds to reach her. If she is panicking and I attempt to help her with breathing techniques, she will hang up and block me on everything until I pursue her. Only then does she feel that I care, but I am becoming overwhelmed. I informed her last week that if she blocks me on any platform one more time, we are finished for good. I am enrolled as a full-time student, 6 classes, and employed full-time, so sleep is vital for me, yet the sleep I forego because of her troubles is driving me to a breaking point. She gets upset when I hold her accountable for my sleeplessness, insisting that she is not the reason I am awake. And while that can be accurate, I would argue that 80 of my sleepless nights stem from becoming overly anxious about her, preventing me from resting or requiring me to engage in calming activities to unwind. I also need mental stimulation, which she was not particularly good at providing even before her depression, but it has worsened now. Sometimes, I experience a surge of positive energy and desire to share a joke or do something enjoyable. The other day, I unexpectedly took her to an art gallery, and she even dressed up, which I took as a good sign. After leaving, I felt inspired and asked her how she felt. She responded that the gallery reminded her of how badly she wanted to die. While we were at dinner with a friend she has recently become close to, she was laughing and sharing jokes, and I kept hoping she would interact with me in that manner. However, whenever our friend became distracted, she would lean over and tell me that if she ended her life because her day was terrible, I could not be upset with her. I attempted to play a game where I asked her to guess the song I was humming it 4 times, yet each time she gave me a blank stare and said she did not know. I offered a hint, but she told me not to bother since it would merely add to her stress, which she did not want to deal with. When I try to reassure her that everything will be okay, she interprets it as me abandoning her and leaving her to cope independently. There have been instances where she suggested we should break up, and once we even did, with her reminding me every day that we were separated, yet claiming we were only communicating for my benefit and needed to cut off contact soon. When I finally suggested we implement no contact, we maintained it for about a week before she reached out to me. We talked, and she seemed normal again, being chatty and enjoying my company, but as soon as we reconciled, it reverted back to this situation. She would become upset at the mere thought that I may have spoken to someone during our breakup, even though she encouraged me to do so, and I chose not to. And at one point she exploded on me simply because I mentioned someone had reached out to me, although I did not engage with them. She blocked me and accused me of being the worst boyfriend she has ever had, claiming I did not care about her and that she had cheated on me at the start of our relationship because she feared I would do the same first, but I urged her to remain faithful. Even after blocking me, she sent me some harsh emails, and eventually, she returned to her senses and has felt guilty about it for the past week. I value setting boundaries, and she feels remorseful for how she treated me. She messages me regularly to express her sadness about her tendency to be unkind, yet she reverts to the same behavior. When I confront her about it, she focuses solely on how flawed she is and asks me questions like, "Do you think this is normal?" And, "Do you believe a typical person thinks the way I do?" It is evident there is something amiss in her mind, yet sometimes it feels like she is evading accountability. Additionally, when she expresses dissatisfaction with various aspects of life and I proffer a solution, she becomes irritated with me as if I am foolish for believing it could be straightforward. During a recent sleepover, she shared how severe her sleep problems have become, and I offered her melatonin, which she declined. I also suggested magnesium to enhance her sleep quality, and she again refused, yet spent the entire following day lamenting her inability to sleep. When I embark on my little nature adventures, I feel excited about the activities, but she often requests that I wait by the car or spends her time on Instagram. There is nothing wrong with that, but I believe nature played a significant role in my healing journey, while her phone serves as her primary escape from feelings. She does not communicate with her friends, half of them do not even know we are together, and it has been a year. While I provide substantial support for her, it becomes overwhelming for me as a single person. I genuinely believe that if I were to leave, she would harm herself, but she lacks any other support system, leaving me uncertain about what to do. She shows a lack of passion for life, which I know significantly contributes to her depression, yet her mindset seems hardwired for negativity at times. She cannot appreciate the simplest joys in life, regardless of how much I try to convince her they are precious and meaningful. She dismisses them as trivial distractions that waste her time. I used to find immense peace in watching ducks swim for hours, but when I try to do this with her, I feel a strong urge to leave and mindlessly scroll through my phone, and I abhor the person I am becoming in this relationship. How can I encourage her to shift her perspective without causing her emotional pain?